Yo, so what's it called? Talking a little bit about Atticus there. I don't want to I don't want to say too much on him because, like I said, very old character that I haven't played in years and haven't had access to the notes in equally as much time. So it's hard to really. Well, let me turn the volume down a little bit here. It's up pretty loud. Kill that. All right, there we go. So, he. It's been a long time since I played that character, and like I said, I remember like some key points. Like obviously, like he had magnetism, then the Hellspawn armor. Like those were his most definitive things. And I remember he was because back then I think we were like always splitting stuff up. So it was like he was half mutant, half something else. And I want to say the other half was Saiyan because like that was kind of the go-to race for good reason. And I probably neglected his Saiyan side a bit because his other sides were so nice. But the Saiyan side doesn't need to be super active. You don't need to be out there training with your chi like to be, you know, to be a good Saiyan. What you need to be doing is out there is like getting it in, fighting with other people, and doing that kind of stuff, which is what he did. We got into a lot of fights with people. Like we were kind of back and forth with the crew. I feel like he was running from the Children of New Genesis. Was that him? I think that was him. They were out there destroying planets and stuff like that, and like they were just. I said it was a nasty squad. So whenever you say he was pretty nice, like I don't want to say it's an understatement because it's not. He was pretty nice. He was probably my most potent character within Generations. Like even Zeratul, like late stage Zeratul, like I don't know if he would be a match for like Hellspawn. Atticus, because the Hellspawn armor brought with it like a host of like passive benefits of like you try to like mind control Hellspawn armor, it's gonna mess with your brain and stuff like that, and it had some pretty wild defenses to things. So it's definitely something like I'd put it up there with items that are really good to have. Like I think the only thing is every so often basically I was how do I want to say? Oh yeah, like whatever demon there was, like there like I don't know if it was a underworld like demon lord or something like that. He basically wanted me to serve him, and Atticus is his own man. He isn't about that. So there was a back and forth with that, and I never got to. I think he died before the conflict with that demon occurred, but it was definitely something that was in the works. Now, like I said, again, when Atticus died, the option to play the Over and Underworld wasn't there for us players, and it turns out that he did. I think he did go. He did end up going to one of those things, and he did end up living from that point. But I didn't get to play it. So with that being said, the downside of the Hellspawn arm was definitely that you do have this demon you have to answer to, and there are consequences if you decide to ignore him. But I was like, hey man, I'm my own person here. Let me, you want to bring it? You want to bring it to me? Go ahead. But the thing that I think is kind of undersold with Atticus is just how freaking potent his magnetism powers were. And this is something I'm going off of. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but there was a time on a planet like he affected the entire magnetic field of the planet, and it wasn't like he was upending buildings or anything like that, but he was just manipulating it on a planetary scale at that point for being a pretty new character. I mean, I actually had him for a while. I don't think he was like one of those quick and done or short play session kind of things. Like I had him for a while, and we played him for a lot of sessions and movies until he ended up dying. But like his magnetism powers, like on the macro scale, were definitely up there. And being that they're like my favorite, like I said, like based on my favorite character, I put a lot of time and effort into making them better. Like, yeah, I could have did some more push-ups and stuff like that, and made my Saiyan side made me move faster and hit harder and all that stuff. No, we were straining those magnetism powers, and I think it was almost to the point where I feel like it was hard to like push the macro side of my powers forward, just because at that point, like when you're affecting planets and stuff like that, it's kind of hard to push yourself. Like it's hard to train that. Like you think if I want to if I want to run faster, I put some weighted clothing on, and I run all the time. But it's like, if I want to push my magnetism powers further, it's like, how am I going to be messing with planets like this when, I don't have the ability to freely move between planets, and messing with their magnetic fields can really mess with, a lot of stuff and attract a lot of attention for people who's going to be like, yeah, you need to stop that. But so I think I spent a lot of time working with his micro scale, like getting his control kind of up there. So it was like trying to figure out how to turn it like into like a lethal weapon that was an extension of my will, as opposed to like wielding this hammer like I wanted to be like a surgical knife, that kind of thing. So that's where I spent a lot of my time on him. And like I said, the what's it called? The guy that ended up beating him, I feel like he was the member of the crew who could control gravity. And it's just like, I got in a situation where I couldn't get out of it. Like they finally managed to pin me down and subdue me. And it was just like, he just kept crushing me. And it took a lot of freaking effort for him to do it. Like, it wasn't like it was, oh, yeah, he went out, like he got killed or anything like that. It was just kind of like this epic struggle of wills. But at the end, like, I had no counter to his gravity fields. Like, I think the best thing I could do was like alter the magnetic fields around me to like to lessen the strain. But he ended up beating me, I guess. But yeah, he was definitely like, he was one of those contender type characters where I feel like if I had got the chance to play him in some movies and stuff like that, he would have been pretty vicious. Like, because like I said, just it wasn't just that it was like the magnetism. It wasn't just I'm still saying the other side of me was half saying. It wasn't just that. It was just that Hellspawn armor was extra vicious because no one ever saw it coming. Like, I don't know if people just didn't know what Hellspawn armor was or what it was, but like when those chains came out, like, they weren't messing around. Like, they tore some people apart, and I feel like there was an infernal nature to them that probably made them more vicious than regular. What's it called? Like regular, just like they weren't just like metal chains that did that or anything. So it was definitely interesting. But yeah, it was. He was a lot of fun, and I wish I could remember more about him. I said, hopefully, if I mess up anything, if the DM remembers him at all or anything like that, he can point things in the right direction. Like, I'd love to actually to like, because I remember he showed up in some movies at some point, and they said like that he was still around. Like, I remember we saw him much later. It was like one of those ones where I don't think we requested him in the movie. That's why I was like, oh, we just kind of ran into him. And I was like, maybe he's still out there living his dream. But oh yeah, that was the other thing as far as items went. I don't remember if any of his swords did anything. But like, he was someone who loved to collect rare swords. Like, this is long before the Herald and his Sword of the Ancients or anything like that, and I knew anything about him. But yeah, that was his passion, was, let me find a sword that does something cool, and I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to use it to hit people with. So like I said, as far as versatility went, like, I feel like he was a pretty decent swordsman. Like, he wasn't like a good swordsman or anything like that. But, he swung that sword pretty hard to the point where you didn't want to get hit by it. What's it called? Like, he had like the Hellspawn armor, and I think I've used the chains the most. I don't remember how much I used the cloak. I think the cloak would mainly wrap people up and kind of like, I could like wrap people up and like it would like have them like all four limbs kind of caught, and it could hold some people there that I was pretty impressed by, like, as far as the strength of things go. And then I just wrapped the chains around and then pulled the chains out, and it would just like make mincemeat out of people. And it's like, that's beyond the magnetism stuff. That's beyond like the what I'm saying, the half saying background and things like that. So it was definitely, he was definitely a pretty canon character. And that's what I was thinking. I was like, I'd like to try to make someone a little closer to that, but as far as like a next character goes, who can actually get out there and get it in, that kind of thing. Because I do miss that a little bit, being able to get it in. On the other hand, like I said, that was like, I played that aspect of Generations, and I was curious to see what else was out there. So you could, you get to see like different aspects. Like Omen was definitely a different aspect. Zeratul was a very different aspect, even though he was kind of on the cosmic scale of things. He was nowhere near in the shape to be on the cosmic scale. And then Cass is very much like it's one of those ones where Cass was kind of inspired by like people I've met inside Generations, uh, as far as like what I wanted to do with him, because you always like there's always that person in the squad who's like, who's not the traditional fighter, and it's like they have these people like that was like even with like the Herald squad and everything like that. I feel like there was this like little psychic chick, and she was like one of the most everything psychics out there. And I don't know why Zeratul was supposed to be handling her, because boy, could she like Zeratul's psychic stuff was on the minor level. Like he never had a chance to develop it that much because he's always around these people who are moving fast and hitting hard. So it's like, what am I gonna do? Like I can't keep up with them. I can't box them or anything like that. And my psychic potential was, I think I picked really terrible in the number. And even though trying to build it up through some gifts and stuff like that, it must have been like abysmal because it was never great. But yeah, anyway, like they had the little girl who was this viciously powerful psychic, but it wasn't like, I don't know if she was like, erasing people's mind. It was just like she could alter reality, like people's perception of reality on a planetary scale. Like she could create these giant fields of like places like that seemed endless, where you could just, you'd be in it, and it's like at that point, like you don't even know how much is real, like how much of what you perceive is actually a thing. So that's where Cass kind of stemmed from, was to hopefully find some people who could frontline for him, and then just be like one of those everything, like part of a squad that's a lot, that's really nice, but not the person out there throwing fists. Like I wanted to give him a little versatility. Like I was gonna try to. I think I gave him like I kind of kick myself for it now, but like I gave him a fighting style like I gave him Kenshin's fighting style from Samurai X, and then I got some access to some really minor power. Like the DM basically explained it. It was like some very like because of my race's abilities and stuff like that, like in Generations character creation, I don't know if you guys, well, it's probably changed a lot since you guys have old characters, is you get your race, but you're not guaranteed to get a power or anything like that. Like you're not like entitled to that. So when I did Cass, like his Nui energy, which I didn't know about, like that, I think that made up a majority of what his thing was. And I got like a talent and I got two talents. I got talent, and then I got like a really minor ability. So I picked the ability to read people's emotions, because that's what the fighting style is about. And I was like, okay, if Cass is ever gonna fight, like I want him to be kind of like one of those redirection style fighters, where it's not about his strength or anything like that. Like I'd like to eventually be able to get him fast enough, but like to be able to, and like that's the whole thing with the Samurai X fighting style, is he basically reads your emotions, so he knows what you're going to do before you do it. So you don't need to be, I mean, like, obviously, if your opponent's just going to disappear in front of you, you're not going to be able to do anything. And that's going to happen. Like that, if you don't make a character who's fast, that's going to happen. But, the potential's there to basically get the drop on people who are above you. Like we were talking, that whole versatility thing. Like, if you're not going to be straight up move fast, hit hard, you need that versatility to overcome that. And that was my attempt at it with those two things. Now, they were so minor, like as far as I think like the impact of the character. Like I use my fighting style as a workout for my character. Like that's what he uses it for. Like how the Billy Blanks or whatever his name was that was doing the Taibo, like that's Cass and his Rurouni. Like he uses it as kind of like a combination of like meditative and like just like a cardio workout kind of thing. So like don't expect any fighting out of him. I put some in there, and I said I regret it immediately. Like I should have, like because I think I picked like one of the talents was, I can't remember if this is for sure or not. Like I know one of the talents was my race's healing arts, so that's why I kind of advanced so far on it. And I think one of the other ones was like alien biology. Like maybe that was like my interest or my passion or something like that. Like you got to pick where you your character either knows about or wants to know more about. So that was kind of his thing, because I wanted him to be able to go out there, and if people were going to recruit him to be a healer, like what I was going to do, my thing that I usually do is lay low until someone comes and gets me, even though that happened my first session. That I was going to lay low for a while, do my thing like Omen was doing, live it up in real world before the terrible stuff starts happening. But yeah, like that was kind of where Cass was coming from on that one, and like I said, he does have very limited combat. Like that was the like I can't remember how the DM. I was asking the DM if I got any items or anything like that, and he was like, yeah. I think it was one of those ones I probably bugged him enough where I was like, hey DM, you said about like items and you were to get back to me, and I think it was just one of those ones where he must have been like, yeah, sure, player, you get an item. What do you want? I was like, DM, let me get a soul saver, and he was like, all right, whatever. So I don't know that he actually meant for me to get a soul saver or anything like that, or that I could even use it or anything, but I had it. So I was like, all right, DM, I have that soul saver everywhere with me, even though I don't know how to use it or anything. And then it finally got to the point where I was like, well, DM, what about my soul saver? And he's like, you have a what, player? So, so like I said, I'm pretty sure I caught the DM. I probably annoyed him or something like that. I'm surprised he didn't kill me for it. That's probably why I got stuck in this terrible Dark Zone situation here, the Darkland situation right off the bat. DM was like, yeah, you got that Soul Saver, player, but you're going to die for it. So I actually was able to, the DM was generous enough to let me trade that in. And from those points and some other points that I got, that's how I was able to get the information on Nui Energy and Life's Embrace. And like I said, there's two other techniques. There's like some titles and stuff I get with it. I'm waiting to hear from the DM to get the information on the cost of those, because man, the Touch of Life or something like that. Let me get some of that. Let me get some, because like the Life's Embrace thing sounds very cool. Like I just like it more for the connection to the Maisha. Like that was the part that kind of sold me on it. But like as far as the actual ability goes, like the AoE healing, like that's kind of nice. But like I don't know if it's something that Cass really needs. Like I can take it or leave it. But if that Touch of Life is something where, yeah, it's something I want, I'm like, yeah, let me, sign me up for some of that. Let me get on that and see what happens. But yeah, we'll see here. I'm hoping now that the DM's back home and everything like that, I'll keep bugging him again to get some more sessions in and do that kind of stuff up. But yeah, I'll cut out there for now. That's probably already long enough. Alright, peace.